Bing.
Yes, I think you're coming through. They're saying you're coming through. They're saying hello. They're sending love. And welcome,
Hello.
welcome back to the Cartoon Therapy office. I've got to make sure I'm checking your levels. Oh, you have hearts on your screen too? How did we get that? Alana,
Oh,
my friend, how are you
oh,
feeling?
I
How are
put
you
up.
doing?
Oh, it is.
Whoa. If I do that, does it do it? No. What do you have, a magical power that you've learned since we last
Now
talked?
I'm not gonna lie about that. I mean, yeah,
Oh my gosh, I've never seen this.
me either.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, the magic has only just begun. Folks, I am joined by Alana Higginbotham. We've talked all about her. Many of you have seen her not once, but twice before on this show. For those of you that don't, I've introduced you enough. Alana, how do you introduce yourself?
Oh my gosh, Vince, that's so funny that you say that. You've never asked me that before.
Mm-mm.
So it's so in line with um, the recent turn of events. So in the past, I would have referred to myself as a coach. And for a little while until we transition, I probably still will. But the truth is, I'm more than just a coach. And what I'm getting at is, I have some advisors in my life that I check in with. I had therapists, an astrologist, all of the people, right? And what I realized is I was not fully living out because I don't often talk about my gift of intuition and my gift of knowing. And so I don't know what I'm going to call myself going forward, but I recently got the strong nudge to do a transparency video where I talk about the truth behind the coaching. And I come clean with the fact that I'm really not, and I don't want to diminish coaches,
Yeah.
but I'm simply a person who's going by a particular game plan, step by step. A lot of what I do, well, pretty much all of what I do is steeped in just a knowing that I have when I link up with someone. There's all types of verbs to describe, adjectives to describe what it is. People have certain names for it, but it really just is a gift. I can have a conversation with somebody that I've never met before, and I can tell them that what they're experiencing is linked to a particular instance in their childhood, things like that.
I relate to this in a certain level. When I was going through my schooling, which I think, if we wound back the clock, I think I had just gotten my first
Yeah.
degree like the day
My
you
first
came on the
on the show,
show.
you had
Yes.
just finished that day or the day
I
before?
think literally that day or the day before. Yeah. And people like now I was on this journey where I'm no longer this moniker of a student, and people would ask me, "What do you do?" And it was I am a social worker, but that didn't quite explain it, right? And I'm a streamer, but that didn't quite explain it. And it was kind of a long road. And now I say a cartoon therapist, and people look at me like I have five heads, and I've just
It
accepted that at
makes sense,
this
though.
point.
It makes sense, and I'm so excited for you that you landed at that first landing. There's going to be more landings where the longer you do it, the more it will live and the more it will tell you what it is. But I never want to be spooky because I'm for the people. And so for some people, it can sound spooky when you say, I just have this knowing.
Hmm.
But when you relate it to the fact that many of us have been in a position where we're having a conversation with someone, or we even pass someone in the grocery store and we just get this feeling about them. Most of the time, most people just glaze over it because we really, in our society, we don't really build ourselves up to trust ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I don't mean us, but I mean like our caregivers, our teachers, our pastors. Society is taught to second guess themselves, right? If you look at a lot of the way we ask children questions in school, it's kind of like a shell game. We're trying to confuse them to see if they really know the information. And what ends up happening is we develop this lack of trust for ourselves.
Mm.
And it gives birth to the pretty much to the world around us as we currently see it.
Wow.
But I just have gotten to a place where I trust myself immensely and I understand the gift that it is. And so it's so funny. And I'm going to tell you, I knew you were going to ask me a question that had to do with me telling you that. I didn't know what the question was going to be, but I had this knowing that some kind of way Vince is going to come upon a subject matter or a topic where I'm going to have to say something like this. I didn't have to, but I feel comfortable saying it. And this is the first place that I've said it out loud officially.
Oh, wow. You know what? I have goosebumps hearing you talk, and I usually do. And you know, that sense of knowing and self-trust is such a huge part of why I wanted you here to talk about this particular topic,
Oh,
to be here today, because you know, I was prepping the cartoon therapy audience before by saying that I think I myself haven't spoken um, too personally as it gets to some of our previous conversations. We usually keep the subject general, but this one today, especially, is so inspired by questions that I have directly had and confrontations in my own personal life with my own. I'd hesitate to say confrontations with my integrity, but confrontations with situations that have brought that word to mind,
mhm, mhm.
integrity, and what does it mean, and to have integrity and to know who I am and trust myself the way that you're talking about. You know, it's interesting you give that example of the shell game. Yeah, that it's supposed to be like a fun game for kids, but then what are we learning underneath the surface? You're
Oh my God.
not to trust yourself, not to trust your sight, to be duped.
Constantly second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
It's often how um, OCD is born. People who have there's different stages of OCD, but people who have to go and lock and unlock the door 12
Right,
times,
right.
or they have to turn off the stove 12 times. Some of that is born of the seed of continuously second guessing yourself, and that number of turning the stove off 12 times makes you feel comfortable so that when you go lay down, you created a memory that marks, I did that and I'm safe. And so it's born out of safety as well. And I often talk about the fact that the opposite of insecurity is not security, it's freedom. Because when
Mm.
you're insecure, you don't just need security, you need the faith and the freedom to be who you were created to be. Well, Alana, I don't know who I was created to be.
Mhm.
Whatever, whoever you are, when you are not worried about, did I do enough? Whoever you are and however you move, when you're not concerned, did I say the right thing? That's when you're living in your purpose. Living in your purpose, or what you were created, or who you were created to be, isn't necessarily like this job that you have for the earthlings to carry out. It's kind of like just a cardinal being a cardinal. You were created to be a cardinal, and trying to be a blue jay, a cardinal would never even dream of trying to be a blue jay,
Right,
right?
right.
But we come into this thing and we think, okay, like, for example, me, I've been having this knowing and this gift, or however you categorize it. I'm still trying to categorize it. Somebody said that it's called, recently I heard it called claircognizance. And I'm trying to come to grips with that as well. But anyway, it's the art or the idea of just knowing something. Um, for myself, I've been doing this for years, right? I mentioned once on the show that I even had a conversation with my fifth grade teacher at the age of 10 about how what she was doing was out of order, right?
Yes, yes,
And
you did.
child at 10 doesn't necessarily have the experience to have that knowledge or that wisdom. So clearly it's something that's kind of like innately in me, right? Well, the reason why I started calling myself a coach is simply because the container that was most able to hold what it was I had was the vessel of coaching.
And I think that's what we do. That's what we are left to do, to explain ourselves sometimes in society, is like, what container can I kind of pour some of myself into so that you can
what
understand?
acceptable
Right.
the container acceptable, because there are other containers that we nuance that we see, but we're like, oh, I don't want to put it in that container because my mother-in-law might say this or my old church friends might say that. So
Yeah.
we believe that we're forced to put it in a more acceptable container. And honey, I ain't never been accused of living inside the box.
Yeah. Well,
It's
well,
no area in my life.
it's so obvious. I mean, it leaks out of you. This sense of intuition, this knowing that you have. I mean, I feel like that comes through to me in the videos that you post, in your drive-bys. It was that when I first saw you and asked you to come on the show, because I saw you in this drive-by in 2020, and I felt like you were talking directly to me with just the way you chose the words. And I'm not even getting necessarily outside of logic here. It was just like it hit me. You said exactly what I needed to hear. And I moved to make a life changing decision that ultimately inspired me to want to bring you on when I started doing this in the first place. So I'm grateful that you're able to share at least more of a glimpse of the totality of yourself with us, and not feel like you have to fit into one thing we don't do here
Well,
on this show is fit into boxes.
I've never felt that way with you guys. Never. I've never felt like I had to fit into a box. I mean, clearly, because here I am spilling the beans for the very first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Officially, I'll say I've made mention in a nuanced way on podcast interviews that I've had, but it officially came to me very loudly and clearly, very strongly, that while coaching is a wonderful hat to wear, it is not the official hat. I'm more of an elder with wisdom and direction to share than I am a coach, because I am helping people. It's like I've created a space. Literally, when I get ready to interact with someone, I can feel a space for them that I just intuitively open up. And that's why people tell me all the time, Alana, I could talk to you for hours, because I have already conditioned myself when I interact with my people. And the way that I know that they're my people is the way that you described. You saw that drive up and it needed no explanation.
Yeah.
You felt like it was
Oh,
for you. There was no
yeah.
debate. That's how you know who your people are. But we get caught up, guilty. We get caught up explaining ourselves to the people that aren't our people. And then we waste our time and our energy. We get depleted. We get frustrated. We think this must not be for us. But you're talking to people that were not created to receive what you have to give. So why would they understand?
You're
Why wouldn't they think you were crazy?
you're speaking. So the I titled today's show Integrity Tune Up, and we're speaking, so you're talking straight to integrity. Although we haven't even really said the word yet, it's underneath every word Alana just said. Uh,
You're right. You're
I,
absolutely right.
I recently, I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but I wanted to present this to you because I thought, if there's one person that could break this down and shed some light on it, I thought immediately of you. Recently, and I think this is relatively universal as an experience, I had disagreements, I'll say, with a series of friends or folks that I thought were closer with me than I guess we were. Okay. And in those confrontations, in any confrontation, in any disagreement, I noticed the ways that we each walked away with a certain understanding of the other person that obviously was not the total understanding of them. Like you just said about the containers. I mean, it's really hard to know the totality, I think, of an individual. So when we have these confrontations with friends, with parents, with loved ones, and you get into arguments, people walk away and they may not have the definition of you in mind that you have of you. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
And I think just like that shell game and other things from our childhood, sometimes I and people, I think, look externally for a definition of who they are. So when there's judgment out there in the world, when there's someone is angry at you, someone doesn't like the way that you said this, and then they walk away and that's their takeaway. You are this, you are that, their judgment. For those of us, I'll say myself in this moment, I felt like their summation of my character must be true. So then I'm
Oh,
feeling anxious. You know what I mean? So then I'm feeling like, oh, well, they walked away thinking I'm a jerk. I guess I'm a jerk. That was like the reflex. And then as I thought about it more, I thought, of course, that isn't true. I define who I am. Every individual defines who they are. But I'm curious if you could break down that, what's happening there. For so many of us, when we have disagreements or when people judge us, and then that causes us to judge ourselves.
well, first, I want to take a moment to tell you congratulations on winning the Hidden Gem Award.
Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to tell you that face to face. I was so stinking excited for you. Everybody in my house was clapping. I was like, "Oh my God, Vince got the Hidden Gem Award." And
Wow.
they were like, "Vince?" I said, "Cartoon Network." And my sons were like, "Oh wow, man, that's so cool."
No, it's so sweet. You messaged
So
me that day. I
congratulations.
think I actually was sitting down at the venue of the award show, having
And
just
we
won
were
it.
messaging each other.
Yes, and you messaged me congratulations, and I sent you a picture. I was holding the award. I said we did it or
Yes.
something like that. You messaged me that day. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, I just
Thank
had
you.
to say
Thank
that.
you. That's very
Okay,
sweet.
one thing about me is your girl loves a definition. Okay. If any of you have a copy of my book, periodically throughout the book, I throw out the definition of something. And so I think that it is important for us to realize that there are varying definitions of integrity. Just like any word, any title, there's going to be different variations of it. Like for instance, the word literally. The word literally has been used outside of its original context, right? But it is accepted, and I'm pretty sure that that particular definition was probably added to the dictionary, right? So when it comes to integrity, I think a lot of us get caught in the hard, fast rule that, to have integrity means to do what you say you were going to do, and to have a moral code, and, all of the things. But this is the first definition of integrity: the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. This is the second definition: the state of being, and this is my favorite one, the state of being whole and undivided.
Hmm.
So when you're having integrity, integrity does not mean doing what you said you were going to do. If you said that you were going to do something and then you realize, oh, I really shouldn't do that. Integrity means being honest with yourself, and then honest with the person you told that was going to do it, that you told that you were going to do it, and not do it. And oftentimes we miss the understanding of having integrity because, again, the shell game has taught us to not trust ourselves. That's how you end up in a situation where you're second guessing whether or not you were being, man, am I selfish? I mean, was I being callous? Was I having a lack of compassion moment? The general rule of thumb is if you're asking yourself that, you're probably not, because People who self-reflect that strongly and that deeply are so forthright in their intention, and your intention is what's most important. If somebody's feelings gets hurt because you were being honest, that's the stick for which you need to use to measure your relationship with that person.
Hmm.
If somebody told me that they were going to do something, and then they later came and said, you know what, Alana, that just doesn't feel aligned for me, I might actually cry at the staring in the face of so much integrity and so much truth. Because a person who is going to be honest with you in that way is an honest person. They have integrity. That means if you're having a conversation with them and you're out of order, they don't have a problem saying, "Oh, I don't know. That doesn't seem in order, Alana." And that's what we need. We don't need people around us faking and saying they're going to do something. um, I had a situation with a person who I consider to be a friend, and early in our relationship, she was basically trying to show me that she didn't have integrity. Now, on the outside, looking at what the world might consider to be having integrity, they may have viewed her as a person with integrity, right? But she and I became friends. And I remember her and I having a conversation about how she mentioned how she hated, she liked dressing nice when she went places. She was a stay-at-home mom at the time, but she loved fashion just like I did. And so on occasion, she might dress in something other than leggings and a t-shirt to go somewhere. And she often hated when other women would criticize her and say, "Why are you so dressed up?" And I thought, oh my gosh, this could be my people because I feel the same way. Only for a few weeks later, us to meet up, and because we were going to take our kids to Chuck E. Cheese, and for her to tell me the same thing. Girl, where are you going all dressed up? We're just going to Chuck E. Cheese. I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? And if that wasn't enough, shortly after that, I had invited her and her family over for dinner. This was not uncommon. I said to her, these are the two things that I'm thinking about cooking. Which one would you prefer? You know, help me decide which one you prefer. And one of them was potato soup, baked potato soup. And she said, you know, whichever one, girl, it doesn't matter. You know, we're easy. I said, okay. So I chose the baked potato soup. The night that they came over, she got out of her vehicle with a pot of rice and two containers of food because her husband doesn't like baked potato soup. So instead of telling me when I asked her,
Yeah.
for some reason she didn't feel comfortable to say, "Oh girl, please, not the baked potato soup. Let's choose the other one."
Yeah.
Or "Oh girl, I don't know. What about such and such?" You know, neither of those sound good, or something other than you showing up to my house after I've spent money and time making a meal that you are now not going to eat. And because it was food that they had made the night before, her daughters were like, "Ooh, I want to eat that." So basically, she came over to my house. Her family ate what she brought, and I had a bunch of baked potato soup.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, she was not being honest.
Right.
And whether she realized it or not, she was not being whole and undivided. When you cheat on yourself, Vince, when you're not honest with the most important person in your life, which is you, it projects out into the world other things. So the truth is, she might not even like baked potato soup herself. But instead of her telling me that, she decided to bring a whole meal to my house, which to this day, I still laugh at that. But and I'm not friends with her, just in case you were wondering.
What do you think it is in her, in anyone that, because I think I've certainly seen that dynamic, that archetype, that behavior. I've seen it in a lot of people. They'll outwardly say, and I've been this person in my life, and maybe
Mhm.
sometimes still show up that way in certain pockets or dynamics. People will show up and they want to present like, oh, whatever's best for you, whatever's easiest for you. And outwardly, theoretically, if that's what they really meant, that's, oh, it's so kind. It's like this gesture of, I don't want to be a burden. Oh, you figure it out. You do it. I'm good with anything. When in
Mhm.
reality, I don't think anyone, like, no, clearly she wasn't. Clearly she wasn't. There was more to the story there. And why
Well,
do
a
you think
lie is
people
the
show up that
opposite of the
way?
truth.
Say that
A
again. I'm
lie is
sorry.
the opposite of the truth. So we can wrap it up in her trying to be nice. We can wrap it up in her trying to have manners. But I just asked you a simple question. It's
Hmm.
really that simple. It's really that simple. And what I've noticed is people who are able to go further in life, um, they're able to do so because they're honest with themselves and about themselves. And it takes work. See, that's the other thing. It takes work to be able to say, let's say I told her that the choice was baked potato soup or chicken and waffles, and her husband don't really like breakfast for dinner, and maybe her kids don't really like baked potato soup. And this is all about preference. You get to be friends with whatever kind of person you want. I want a friend who is undivided and whole enough that they can say, actually, what about pizza?
Yeah.
What about spaghetti? That sounds better. I don't know about I don't know about baked potato soup or and this is my method. Either that or I have accepted that I'm going to be eating baked potato soup when I go to Alana's house. When I tell you this is my answer, this is my choice, it is my choice and I have accepted anything that comes with it. Anything unexpected, if I figure out I don't like it, if I figure out it's too cold, it's too hot, whatever, I have already in my mind accepted whatever comes with that decision. Otherwise, I'd never
Undivided
make a
and
decision.
this is so true. I think sometimes it's almost like, and we could speculate on where that behavior comes from. I think the important part is the other end of it, how it looks and the honesty of it. I think sometimes people get like, or when I've been like that in the past, it's almost like I'm afraid of your response or what the
Hmm.
other person might think. I'm afraid that
Yeah,
if I say I want pizza, that you'll think I'm an asshole, right? And the
yeah.
fear of the outward perception of me being more important than how I perceive myself. That fear is so strong. Well, I don't want to be an asshole, so I'll divide myself. I'll become unwhole and kind of say this when I mean this and bring this food even though I told you this, and then that's, I think, where we lose that integrity. That's where people spiral.
Well, what happens is you start to build a landscape of people around you that are lying to you
Yeah.
and that are not for you because you've shown up dressed like the Joker and they love the Joker, but inside you're really Batman.
Mm.
And when you decide to start shedding pieces of your Joker exterior, they're like, Batman? Where's he going with those muscles? What do you mean the Dark Knight? Who cared? What is it? And so then what ends up happening is this is why I clapped earlier when you said that you had conflict with several of your friends, because that is usually a great indicator of your leveling up and you're leaping from one era to your next higher era, because we in our society, we don't have a problem changing our taste in clothes as we get older, maybe cars, maybe food, hairstyles, that type of thing. But nobody ever talks about changing your taste in people. Like,
Really?
I'm just supposed to be friends with these same people who I no longer resemble. They because I have been changing. I'm not better than them. I'm just different from them because, some of these people may have changed and they look different than some of their other friends. What I'm saying is when I show up and I am honest with myself and about myself, I am whole. And when I'm whole, that means all of me can be seen, all of me can be experienced. That means if I say to someone on the phone, "Oh, what about pizza?" How they respond to me being honest tells me what I need to know going forward.
Wow. Because that's the difference of someone who is going to make room for you the same way you're making room for them versus
Yeah,
someone that only wants you for something, for some reason.
correct.
Because if
For
you're
the energy.
yes, if you're showing up and you're saying I want pizza, and if they were to say, well, then forget about you, or they had some judgmental thing about that, what that
Mhm.
tells me is they want you showing up in their life in this certain place in this certain way. They don't
Mhm.
necessarily want you showing up in their life, especially when it's something as small as that.
And even more, I don't even know what the adjective to use to describe it, but even more simply, that is telling you that that is not your people.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they may actually walk around in circles where with people, places, and things that fortify this mindset that how dare she ask for pizza when I said baked potato soup or chicken and waffles. They may have this mindset that is being constantly affirmed. So you, no matter how you explain yourself, you still look crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why if I break it down to the lowest common denominator, that's that's one of my that's one of my colloquialisms. Um, then what I realize is it's just an indicator that they're not for me. It's very simply put. We are all out here making selections based on what we prefer. Okay. Let's say I prefer no nuts in my ice cream, which is a lie, but let's just pretend.
Okay.
Let's say I prefer an ice cream flavor that doesn't have any nuts in it. I go to a store and I get this flavor and I start eating it and realize there's nuts in it. There's not necessarily anything wrong with the ice cream. It's not spoiled. It's not melted. It just has something in it that I don't prefer. And I really feel, Vince, if we look at life like that more often, we will move along much quicker because oftentimes we want to hold people's feet to the fire. How dare she said that to me? And I just want you to know, as I'm saying this, I still do that. I still think, what the hell is wrong with her?
Yeah, yeah.
Why would you think after all I've done for her? It's just it's indoctrinated, if you will.
It is socialized.
We've been trained. It's socialized. We've been trained to not trust ourselves, and in not trusting ourselves, we're questioning our value. And that's how you end up in a situation where somebody like you who is so well intentioned can be talking to someone and you care so much about the other person, right? It's not that you don't care about yourself, but a lot of the moves that you make, you do so because I want to make sure this person is having a good experience. And what comes with that is you will allow somebody to make you feel or tell you that you're selfish when it's actually not the truth.
And even though the reflex for a lot of us, for me, than you, the reflex is sometimes how dare they? Oh my god, like the human socialized conditioned reflex. When we zoom out, what I'm getting from this in large part is like then when you zoom out and you try to picture that ice cream metaphor on the situation, it takes the heat, it takes the monkey mind, as Buddhist teachers would call it, out of the situation, and you realize, yeah, this in this case, this person is this flavor, I'm this flavor. That's great for them. It's great for me. There's actually that word confrontation. In a way, there's really not a confrontation. It's just a preferential difference, and it is what it is.
Absolutely. And when you stand in your wholeness, that's my favorite part of the integrity definition. When you stand in your wholeness and you're undivided about who you are, then you get to move through life with so much more ease because you can look at something like I can easily look at, I don't know, right now, a high heel shoe and say, oh no, that's not for me. Even though there was a time when they were for me, sort of, and I would go through the pain of wearing them. Now I'm at a place in my life where I couldn't if I wanted to. I had ankle surgery a few years ago, so I haven't necessarily gotten my stamina back when it comes to that. But that is how you will become when it comes to choosing people, places, and things for your life. Your job, it's going to be difficult for you to quit that job. You don't know where you're going to get your next job from. But if you start looking and you start preparing, you'll see that the reason you're having so much conflict where you are is because it's time for you to move along. It's not time for you to buckle in and become a human rights advocate for HR because this job is
Hmm.
treating you horribly.
Ah.
You know, we're talking about something overtly inappropriate. That's one thing, but sometimes it's just a matter of a boss, supervisor who's an asshole, co-workers who don't align with the way that you think. It's simply time. They're not the ones tripping. It's you. It's time for you to go.
Because you've outgrown it and you've outgrown
You've
environments and
outgrown it.
situations. It's interesting how our intuition, going back to what you're saying in the beginning, it's interesting how our intuition guides us. And it's almost like that's our compass for when we're outgrowing situations, when we're outgrowing relationships. And if we could just hear it, this whole thing would be so much easier, you know?
It really, it's not the hearing it; it's the trusting it.
Trusting
Because
it.
so much throughout our life, like something so simple as, let's say you meet this new girl at school and your mom tells you, or this new guy, this new kid at school, and your mom tells you, hey, listen, that's Miss Louise's grandson. You remember Miss Louise used to be really good friends with your grandma before she moved away. So I want you to, spend time with him and, make him feel at home in the new school. And so you're like, okay. So he gets to school and you realize the kid is an absolute jerk.
Yeah.
And you have good foundational evidence of him being a jerk. But you go home and you tell your mom, and your mom is like, Vince, just give him a chance. Um, you're just getting to know him. And the truth is, in life in general, we do that to ourselves so often. So often we're in a situation and we say to ourselves, Vince, maybe you're overreacting. And then you stay in a relationship for longer than you should. You know what? Maybe I'm being selfish. And then you stay in a friendship longer than you need to. And so I would encourage people, this is what I'm doing in 2025. I have become very, very comfortable with the idea of being wrong.
Hmm.
Let's just see. Let's just see if I'm wrong. This person I think is not worth my time. This venture I think is not worth my time. I'm not going to do it. And let's just see if I'm wrong. As opposed to sticking it out to see if I'm tripping.
I think that happens, and that I'll speak for myself, but I think this is a relatable experience. I think that happens for me sometimes because I confuse adaptation. Somehow this word adaptation shows up, and it's like in the past, maybe I did stay into this relationship because I'm adaptive, and I think the human being is adaptive.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
be in a negative toxic situation, but you can make the best of it. You can kind of adapt. You can say yes to something that you actually meant no to, like let's say a trip, a wedding, a baby shower, or something. Do you want to go to this baby shower? No, but you go anyway and you say yes. And then people adapt. And while they're there, you make the most of it and you make it whatever fun. And maybe you come home and, oh, that wasn't that bad. Or maybe after months of the relationship, whatever the story, your copium is that you're telling yourself. I think sometimes I and others confuse adaptiveness for this right and wrong intuition thing. Sometimes we'll betray our initial no and then
Hmm.
confuse our adaptive nature for, oh, I guess I didn't need to say no. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense.
Yeah, that's something I've been
Uh,
thinking about quite a bit. What does that bring up for you? This idea that
well,
adaption is not necessarily what you're what you deserve, what you
you
want.
want to look at everything you do and say, Vince, as a seed that you're tossing out, and you want to ask yourself, in my adapting, in my sowing this seed, planting this seed of adapting, am I okay if this grows?
Mm,
So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're married and you like to stay up late on the sofa watching television, but your wife likes to get in bed earlier, watch a little TV in bed, and she actually prefers that you guys do it together, right? So let's say you adapt and you begin going to bed earlier with your wife. Do you think that you can sow that seed and you will be okay if it continued to grow?
mm, mm.
See, that sounds like I am sowing a seed, I'm planting a seed on some very fertile ground that could actually grow into
Yeah, that's
something
not so
like
bad. That could be
my
nice.
wife feels like she's cared for.
Hmm.
Um, and that's actually a true story, but in the story that I just told you, I'm the one staying up late on the sofa and my husband's the one to bed early. And so, to your point, I adapted, and it is one of my favorite things
Oh,
throughout the day. Sometimes when I'm having a rough day, it gets me through the day because I know I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to climb into bed next to the hubs, and we're going to start watching a little television and talking. And I absolutely love it. I look forward to it. But if I start adapting and doing things that I don't want to do, am I okay if the seed of me going to this event, going to that event, if I'm okay if that seed continues to grow? I'm not okay. And the hazard to being the second example of adapting is that you begin to do that in all facets of your life, because you will be in the garage trying to tinker with something, and you're having the hardest time making it work, when all you need to do is go into the kitchen and open the junk drawer and there's a tool in there that would make the
yeah.
job in the garage go that quick. But see, you are accustomed to adapting. So you're in the garage wasting time
Wow.
when all you had to do was go get the right tool and you would be done. But you are like, no, I can get this done. I do not have to go through the trouble of going into the house,
Mm,
getting the right tool. You begin to put adaptation on a pedestal and treat it as a badge of honor until one day you wake up and you realize, oh shit, I've been adapting to my friends. I've been
yeah.
adapting to the conversations I'm entertaining. I was adapting at the nail shop I go to. I'm adapting at that shitty barbecue spot I go to. My whole life is an adaptation. I'm not living out full nowhere. I'm watching movies I don't really like.
Yeah.
Oh, we love Vince. One thing we know about Vince is he's so accommodating. You don't want that. You don't want to
No.
live that life.
And I've been that person. I mean, and I've done that. And
Same.
and and I used to say, if everyone I used to want everyone to like me. And now
Yeah,
I
same.
think if everyone likes me, that probably means I don't like myself. Because it
That is
probably
100%
means
what that means.
I've divided myself. I've become so unwhole. I'm so adaptive that I don't even know what's aligned in here anymore. And I
Yeah.
think it emphasizes something that I think is so important when you're talking about adaptation, and when you have an adaptation coming up, think about the seed, think about the plant that it's growing, because it puts a lot of importance on even small decisions that we make in our life. And a lot of the times I think people become divided and unwhole and foggy with their integrity based on a bunch of little decisions as opposed to one big thing. It's all those little times, right? That you said yes when you meant no. It's all those little times that you laughed at a joke that you actually didn't really think was funny. It's all those little times that you're so caught up in the adaptation that you disappear.
You disappear. Oh my God, yes. Can you imagine a more divided division than just being
Gone.
invisible?
Right. You're so sliced up that you can't even make heads or tails of the image anymore, you know?
And those little times, when we're trying to do something new and live our life in a new way, resistance comes to build strength, right? What do they tell you to do when you want to bulk up? Resistance training, right? You want to lift some heavy weights. When you're in the garage tinkering with the thing and all you have to do is go into the house and grab the tool, that is an opportunity for you to flex that muscle. You're working that muscle. So those kind of things are going to keep happening to you until you just get up and go get the tool.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen is you're going to be building that muscle, and you're going to be in a situation where you're tinkering with someone's emotions because they're upset that you're now being your whole undivided self. And instead of you utilizing the tool, you're trying to tinker with their emotions with what you currently have, what they're comfortable with, instead of going to the drawer where you got to take a little time and say, you know what, Elaine, I'm not doing that. That doesn't
Hmm.
feel aligned for me. Well, Vince, what do you mean it doesn't feel aligned? I don't want to do that. I can't believe you would say that to me. I'm actually sad that you would want me to do something that I don't want to do. And then then before you know it, it rolls off the tongue. And then this is the best part. You do it so much, Vince, that you never really encounter anyone you ever
Yes.
have to do that with
I
again.
knew you were going to say that, because then you create the environment you're in by, the integrity and the prowess and showing up as who you really are. So little by little, you'd think you're whittling away those kinds of dynamics. I have to say, we have a little bit more time, and chat. We're so caught in this conversation that I haven't been as
I know, I
attentive
was just
to
thinking
the
that.
questions coming in. But if you have questions, particularly if they're related exclusively, I guess, for the sake of time, to the concept of integrity or to what we're talking about with adaptation, if the questions are coming in the channel point redeem, we've got a little bit of time. I see one that came in from Momboy that says, when I trust myself deeply, this is to Alana, when I trust myself deeply, sometimes a primal fear kicks in that I don't understand. How do you modulate energy to keep your mind balanced?
So everything is energy, right? Everything has energy. The desk that I'm sitting at is represents energy. Everything's moving. And so it's important to realize wherever energy is present, it can be modulated into whatever type of energy you would like it to be. So if you're in a situation where you feel unsafe or you feel devalued, you can take that energy and you can transmute it into, oh, wow, me realizing that I don't feel valued in this situation is just an opportunity for me to make a change in this interaction. Essentially, this interaction is letting me know I'm not valued over here. And it's also an indicator that I know my value. Does that make sense? What
It
was the
does to
person's name?
me. This is from Mom Boy, from Mom Boy.
Got, got it.
And they're talking about that when you don't trust they had said in the beginning, when I trust myself deeply, sometimes a fear kicks in. I would imagine that also part of that would come from when I trust myself and then I feel a little bit scared, for me, it's because I haven't trusted myself enough in life and gone with
Yeah,
that
I was gonna
decision.
say it's new. It's a
Yeah.
new muscle you're
Yeah,
working.
a new muscle. That's a good way of putting it. Chat, if any other people have questions on this particular topic, I know a lot of stuff came in through the chat that I missed, but I have to
I'm sorry
say,
about that. We got
no, oh
rolling.
my
We're
gosh.
old friends now, Vince.
This is I'm so grateful for your time and the wisdom that you have and that you're sharing with us. I'm sitting here like goosebumps,
I
chills every
love
other
it.
word. I'm so happy about it.
I
I
love it. I
know
love it.
someone asked earlier, are you going to stream? Do you think?
I'm open to it. I'm definitely open to it. I mean, I got, the 2024 Hidden Gem Award winner who told me that he's gonna help me uh put my stuff together if I needed to. So we'll see.
We have a question coming in from Cinnabon that asks, is there some level of compartmentalizing and denying myself that is acceptable? Where do you draw the line?
Compartmentalizing is good and denying yourself is good when you are denying yourself going backwards.
Mm,
Like, let's say you stop fooling with somebody and you got this inkling that you wanted to just go by the coffee shop that you guys normally go to, but you deny yourself that. That's good because you're denying yourself going backwards, you're going forwards. And the beginning part, what was the beginning part? I forgot that quick.
uh, the question was, is there a
Compartmentalize.
level of compartmentalizing that is okay, basically?
Yes, because when you compartmentalize, you're able to allow more than one thing to be true at once.
Mm,
So I can both be on a healing journey and be healed at the same time because I'm on the journey and I am healed. Like my ankle, for instance. I'm on a healing journey with my ankle because there are some things that, due to that ankle surgery, I'm not quite able to do. But I'm back to doing the normal things like walking and running and jumping and run and doing sprints on the treadmill and hiking and that type of thing. So I'm still on a healing journey because every once in a while something will happen, but I can compartmentalize and realize two things can be true at once. I remember when I was in leadership in the church that I was attending many, many years ago. And the pastor's wife complimented me that she said, it's not many people, Alana. As a matter of fact, you're only one of two, she said, that are able to see me as, in certain denominations, we refer to the pastor's wife as the first lady. And she said, there's not many people who can see me as the first lady and separately as Charlotte.
mm,
But I have that gift. I can compartmentalize that. For years, my cousin was my dentist. I know when I go into her dental shop, she's not Margaret, she's Dr. Allen.
mm.
I can compartmentalize, right? So let's say I am trying to heal from some childhood wounds and I've gotten to a place where I'm pretty good. I can compartmentalize time around my family by going to the event and relegating myself to a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But I know that's about all I can handle. So I do still have this stuff that I got to work through, and it's in a compartment over here, but I can still live my life and I can still flourish and not feel like I have to be one thing or the other. Does that answer the question?
I think it answers it really well. Do you think you have time for one or two more questions right before you go?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. I've got them picked out here. I think I see a lot of questions came through. I'm grateful to everybody's energy and attentiveness to this conversation, and I'm grateful to Alana for being here. It's such a frickin' treat when
I
she's here
love
every
it. I
time.
absolutely love it.
We've got a question that says, I try to trust myself to make decisions based on how I feel, like my health can dictate how I live my life, etc. Sometimes I feel like I let myself down because I feel like my life, what would my life look like in years past? It may be different than what is happening in my life now. Essentially, what they're asking is, and they sum it up by saying, what would be an easy way to grasp with making decisions on the fly? I read that as maybe calling it while you're experiencing it and not leaning into the overthinking.
Well, one of the things is adopting what I said. My one of my mantras for 2025 is I'm willing to be wrong.
Yeah,
Unless the decision you're making is, do I lay down on the train tracks or do I not?
right.
You can always come back from that decision.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah,
your decision is, should I jump off this 120-story building or should I not? You pretty much can come back from that, right? No matter what people tell you, there are other jobs out there to get. No matter what people tell you, there are plenty of fish out there, plenty of fish in the sea. There are plenty of friends out there. There's another pizza place across town. If you feel like the pizza place is no longer, their customer service is crap. There's always another day. You can always go back. And so the idea that you have to learn how to make the decision in the moment. It's not that you have to learn how to make it in the moment. You have to have the chutzpah to just make a decision. And what you'll find is more often than not, whatever decision you made was the exact right one.
yeah.
Because either you're going to level up or it's going to teach you a lesson so that you can level up.
And the mantra is you're willing to be wrong.
I'm willing to be wrong.
Willing to be
I'm
wrong.
willing to be wrong about this.
I'm going to use that myself. I'm stealing that mantra for this year.
You can always go back. You can always apologize and say, you know what, I was wrong. It's part of your growth. It's part of your life. And if you go back to a friend and say, I apologize, I was so wrong, and they don't accept you back, it wasn't meant for you. It wasn't, you're not out here. Many of us are not out here committing crimes.
Right.
It would be different
Yeah, right.
if you killed their dog or slept with their spouse. That's not what we're even talking about.
Right.
We're just saying you invited me to go to the skating ring and I don't want to go.
Yeah, right.
Or
But in our
you
head, it
invited
feels like a
your
crime.
sister's baby shower and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to go.
Mm-hmm. It's so
These are
well said.
not life and death situations.
We've got a last question here, and I'm grateful for your time. We won't keep you.
Who
That
was
was
the
from
question
Darth
from?
Maul. That was from Darth Maul.
Okay, is it the one that said I'm in a friendship?
Same person, different question. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've got a
Because
different
I saw
question
that
here.
question and I paused the chat because I wanted to address it. But you go ahead and tell me
I've
what
got
his
a
question.
question from Ari that I wanted to say because I think it speaks to the one about the friendship to a degree too. I'm playing kind of connective, trying to find the themes and bring you this one. So Ari asks, is it worth helping loved ones with their own integrity, making sure that they're being honest with themselves about their own feelings, or is that a personal journey for them to figure out?
Well, when you say it's worth it, that implies to me that there's a bit of a sacrifice or an investment that she's putting in. I'm assuming that that's her pronouns. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right.
Uh, uh, so there's an implication that you're putting in some sort of investment. So it's kind of like, is it worth the time I'm going to spend to help them with their integrity? Well, the truth is, you don't really need to spend a lot of time. See, when you are whole and honest, you are operating from a place where it doesn't require you to continue to explain the same thing to somebody over and over.
Hmm.
When you're whole and you're honest, you're not only honest about you, but you're also being honest with yourself about the situation. You usually know if you're talking to a family member or a friend about their integrity, you usually know based on their response if they're ready for any further assistance. And how they receive your words is the thing. And so I would say that more can be taught throughout the way you just live your life. You can say something to somebody, but if you can tell that they're not really ready to receive whatever space you've opened up for them, just love on them. Listen to them, say, "Oh my God, girl, that is so crazy. You still dealing with that? Oh, wow." And then until they say again, "Can you please help me and tell me what to do?" And sometimes, even when they say that, what they really mean is, "I want to talk about it. I want to gossip about it." Because then they end up not taking your advice once again. I hope that was
I
helpful.
think that's wonderful. I think that's incredible. Um, and I'm so grateful. Look at how much we can pack into an hour with Alana
I
Higginbotham.
know. I love it. I
I
think the
love it
first time
too.
I stayed like 2 hours, didn't I? Or hour and a
We
half.
just kept going. Yeah. How can
I want
people?
Can I read
Yes, go
Dartmouth's
ahead.
question?
Yes,
And
of course.
tell me if this is the same as what they said. So it's a comment, and the comment says, "I'm in a friendship that I feel like I am doing all the work, and I feel like there is no integrity left. I kind of feel lost because if I don't actually reach out, there is no interaction at all. Is there a way to feel like it's worth to keep the friendship with integrity and not feel burdened?" So what I love about this, Darth Maul,
Darth Maul. Yeah, yeah.
Darth Maul, what I love about this is how you already know the answer, because as I'm reading through this, what you're what you're telling me in essence is you know what to do, but you don't want to be a bad person. You know what to do, but it's hard for you to do it while what you know what to do is butting up against societal expectations and maybe what you were taught growing up. It sounds like there is no relationship, because a ship, imagine a ship is big and it houses a lot of things, right? So it's a relationship, not a relation canoe, because you're in this thing by yourself. So a ship is going to house a lot of things. We're going to build some things. We're going to add some things. It's going to be you. It's going to be me. We might, as the two of you, you might even relate to some other people together. But this doesn't sound like a relationship or a friendship. It sounds like y'all are being friendly. And that's a completely different concept. You are being friendly to this person by reaching out to them. And you're not being selfish. You didn't say this, but you know, I I I be knowing things. You didn't say this, but it's it's not bad that you reach out and they don't. It doesn't mean that you're being selfish because you want them to reach out as well. It just goes back to preference. One of the things that I've been told throughout my life, usually in response to reasoning why somebody was mistreating me, was, Alana, everybody don't think like you. And
Mm.
I got to a place in my life where I realized, it's true. Everybody doesn't think like me. But the people that I'm looking for are going to also be calling to invite me somewhere. The people that I'm looking for, the spaces that I hold, right? Like look at it as a parking lot. I always look at it as a parking lot. Look at it as a parking lot with parking spaces. I can't put two cars in one space without causing some damage. I can even create boundaries within the parking lot and only allow certain types of vehicles in that parking lot. Like I can have a parking lot where it's only for electric vehicles. And it doesn't matter how nice you are, how many people you know that have electric vehicles. If you want to park in this parking lot and you don't have an electric vehicle, it's not for you. And that's how I feel about friendships. You are the kind of person that sounds compassionate because you're willing to put in work and invest time in this relationship. But the burden that you're feeling is not so much a burden, it's resistance. It's you trying to open a door that doesn't even have a handle. Like it's not even trying to be open. So I would say, drop that zero and get with a hero. No, I'm just kidding. I brought that one from way back in the
I,
80s when I was in junior high school.
I'm smiling ear to ear. I'm actually smiling so hard that my cheeks hurt hearing you because what I just saw there, you're reading the chat and you're pausing it. I'm seeing in my mind the Alana Higginbotham Twitch show. Whenever you are ready, I hope you know I will stop at nothing to show you how to set up exactly what you need. I think that
Thank you so
you're
much.
just so extraordinary. We're so grateful to have you here. We're so grateful. Are you still
Oh,
reading?
somebody Then Princess PJ said, I assume if you value this friendship, you'd reach out as much as I do, but I haven't told you that. That's a good thing to say, but there are some people, one of the old folks used to say, some people need a whole lot of leaving alone. There are some people who don't have the capacity for you to have a conversation with them, and you get to the place where you know that. But sometimes you want to have your last say, you want to have your closure. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I think you get to decide if you want to send a text message like that. It was worded very nicely, but I don't know. I'm at a different place in my life. If I'm reaching out to you and you're not reaching out to me, we're done.
I think a lot of I myself included. I mean, I get really wrapped up in trying to like make closure happen sometimes and
Oh yeah,
saying the right thing, but sometimes in creating the closure, I'm planting seeds of self-sacrifice that I would not actually want to water. Uh
yeah. You would want that to grow. And by the way, I still have time. So if you have time,
Oh,
I
you
have
do?
time.
Oh, yeah, we could
Yeah.
give it a few more minutes. You want to do a few more questions? I'm always trying to be so like, let's wrap it up. And then I see your
I
eyes
know, and I
go.
always forget to tell you in the beginning, hey, Vince, if you want to go hour and a half or more, I'm good. The other problem is that we've been friends since grade school, so I don't feel like it's possible to break it off. Shoot, them's the that's the ones. That's the ones that's gotta go. Darth Maul, I really hope, not I hope, I know that because of what you're saying, I can tell where you are in your journey. um, okay, mom boy said you could break it off with anybody. That is true. You just need the courage. That's all. Oh, somebody want to hire me? Can we hire Alana
As the new
as the new
manager
manager
for Cartoon Therapy,
for
I
cartoon
would
therapy?
love to. Go ahead. We've got more questions coming in. We'll give it a few more minutes. If you're good with that, I'm great with that.
Yeah, I'm totally good with that. Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of know and you really have already said. I mean, like, why would you want to have somebody around as a friend? They might actually want to break it off with you and they haven't had the opportunity or the chutzpah to do so.
We've got Kovac says, at 20, I'm scared of growing old, scared to move on from the sedentary things I do day to day. A lot of my friends are having kids and getting engaged, and I feel pressured to get started in life. What would you recommend to help clear my mind in these bad thoughts?
Oh, I love this question. I don't think we ask it enough. I don't think we talk about it enough because man, it's so prevalent in society. It's so prevalent in society to be where you are and think that you're not where you should be, period. But for you specifically, the deal is this. There's a concept called late bloomer. You're a late bloomer. And that concept is really based on society's norms of what you should be doing in your life at what time. But the truth is, everybody has their categories of life. Some people embrace and conquer and succeed at different categories in different order. So your friends, although they're getting engaged and they're having kids, getting engaged and having kids is a big responsibility. It's all fun and games when you're putting together the gender reveal. And, being a mom is one of the most amazing things. It is being a mom and being a wife are the two things that have changed me the most in my life for the better. And so these are big, huge undertakings. And life has a way of showing up on your doorstep with exactly the package that you're ready for. But if you beg life for too long for something that's out of order, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you don't have the resources to truly do that thing in the way that you would like to do it. I just saw where a gentleman was celebrating his 10-year anniversary, and he said one piece of advice he has taken with him throughout his entire marriage is his mom told him on his wedding day, don't ask for everything at once. There's going to be a lot of things that you want. You're going to want a nice house and a good car and a baby and a beautiful house and all of these things. Don't ask for everything at once, because the beauty of life is growing and learning and acquiring those things through time, so that they're on time and you can be the person you need to be when they arrive. There's a lot of kids who have parents that were not ready to be parents, and they don't have favorable things to say about those parents. So honestly, this is going to sound super crazy from a woman who has been married for almost 25 years and has 2 children, but I think that you are in a sweet spot. I think, Kovacs, your friends have no idea how sweet of a spot you're in, because you are in a place where you're able to work on yourself, then become a parent and a spouse. Many of them will be doing this together in time, with each other, and that's more challenging. So I would rest in the fact that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Do not let anybody tell you, "Oh my God, when are you going to get engaged? When are you going to have a baby?" If that starts happening, then those are not your people. Your people are going to love you where you are and allow you to live and grow in joy, not pressure and conflict.
I just celebrated a 1-year wedding anniversary over this past summer. It'll be 2
Ah,
coming up. And I'm 31. If I was any younger, there's no way I would have the type of healthy marriage that I have now. I had to wait. I had friends, similar thing. I just want to say I lived the truth of what Alana just said on a personal level. Would nowhere near be who I am with the marriage I have if it wasn't for that sweet spot.
you really, I really feel like I hate that society makes people in their 20s feel that way, because essentially what the fine print says, the fine print, what they don't tell you is that all those things sound awesome and amazing, and they are. But let us not forget that they are all added responsibilities. So
True.
the question is, am I truly ready for this added responsibility? And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is, even though I may feel prepared, I really want to go do this. I really want to backpack across Croatia. I really want to, all these things that are easier done when you don't have additional responsibilities. And then the beauty of that is you get to take all those experiences and utilize those when you become a spouse, when you become a parent.
Not to mention those relationships, and maybe that's a topic for the next time you come on, should you give us your energy again, is relationships, because especially romantic, like partner relationships, the level of responsibility and internal what they bring out of you and from your childhood, and the level of self-work that a person goes through when they're in a relationship, I think is unmatched in any other dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got Mighty Narwhal asking, how do we show the world that we're all moving too fast and should be more intentional with our time and energy?
The only way to to truly show the world anything is to do a deep dive into how you move and what you do. So your world is the atmosphere and the landscape around you. And so the only way to show the world, in this case your world, what you mentioned, is for you just to simply be that. find ways, find creative ways, find joyful ways to do that, and you will be an example to the world around you. It's not always for somebody to be this huge impact, to have thousands upon hundreds of thousands of eyes on them. And sometimes that's the segue into having hundreds of thousands of eyes on you, is to work where you are, water your own grass.
So many amazing metaphors here. I've got like 34 cartoon ideas from this conversation
Oh
alone, I have to
gosh.
say. Ray Vemp, I see your question, but I'm not sure if I understand it. Is it right that each one has his own place? How do you find it in serenity and not in anxiety? Not sure I understand the first part of your question, Ray.
Is he asking that everybody has their own place in life, like their own place that they're supposed to be, as in their own form, their own existence, their own vibration, their own energy?
Maybe Ray can clear that up for us. Ray Vemp, if you're here, we've got a few other questions. Someone is asking, how can I improve communications with somebody who is defensive at first?
You're so welcome, Kovacs. Kovacs said, makes me feel better hearing what you have to say. Thank you. To improve communication with somebody who is combative,
Yeah, or defensive.
defensive. So the response of being defensive is essentially um, a response of feeling unsafe. And a person feels unsafe either when they feel like they're being attacked, like actually they feel like they're being attacked, or they're lying and they're in an uncomfortable position. So you have to roll back the tape and look at your interaction with that person and make the decision of which you think it is. Our life ebbs and flows, and at all times, without any exception, we have everything that we need. There's no exception. At all times, we have everything that we need. It may not seem like it because you might be living in chaos, but if you are living, there is a move for you to make that will align with your whole undivided self, that will allow you to get clarity in any area, but that specifically. Did that answer the question?
I think so. And I think it's amazing. You must be, when I remember the last time I asked you to come on, I forget what, I pitched a couple topics. And do you think you could talk about this? You could talk about this. And I remember you saying, I could talk about anything because I'm so aligned in your own self and what we're now going to probably say with integrity and just lining up. Isn't it amazing? Like you're that dialed in, as you were saying in the beginning, to your own intuition, and it brings that strength.
It really does. It really does. Somebody had asked me once and they couldn't quite grasp. So I gave them this example. I said, if I went to a conference and I sat in the audience and I didn't even know what the conference was about, but I went because my friend invited me. And I sat in the audience and somebody came up to me and said, Alana, I know this is crazy, but our keynote speaker is not going to be able to make it. Is there any way you can speak on, it could be men's prostate? I'm not even joking about that. Uh, it could be what it's like to pee standing up. I'm just giving you topics that you would think,
Yeah.
now there's no way else to know about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is because it is the human experience. And I am proficient in the human experience. So there's nothing, and really and truly, if you ever are able to just really dial all the way back and get a bird's eye view, I'm saying the same thing.
Isn't
I'm
it
saying the same thing
interesting?
over and
Okay,
over. I'm just
You're giving me chills because sometimes that's how I feel. When cartoon therapy initially started, it was sort of more of an advice show. I was kind of trying to do like people are asking questions and I'm giving my take. And I started to feel like after a few dozen of those, I started to feel like I'm saying it's somewhere in there. I've always had this sense that I'm kind of saying the same thing and not in a bad way, in like some kind of deeper. There are a few, I feel like there are a handful of fundamental truths
Yes.
and so many things in this chaotic web of life like come back to this handful of things, and if you're
Yeah.
kind of cleared on a few things, it sounds like an oversimplification, but I really don't believe it is. Some of these things we're talking about of trusting yourself and this concept of what you do is a seed you plant, these things are like at the core of so much of the anxiety and the chaos that I think we all experience on a regular basis. And it's just about meeting someone like Alana who can speak to what we already know deep down in our own intuition.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it might get a little deeper because we'll be peeling back more layers, so there'll be more words. It's kind of like the difference between the cliff notes and
Yeah.
the actual, play, actual Hamlet.
Yeah.
Um, but it essentially is, it really all revolves around mainly, if I had to pick one thing, it mainly revolves around trusting yourself. Because if you trust yourself, then you can have more integrity, you can be whole, you can be undivided.
I like it. I like it.
You are good at the words, which is a real talent. Thank you very much. It's so funny because I used to get in trouble so much growing up for talking too much. And I've been told so many times in my life, oh my God, you talk too much. I've had people, adults, I'm having a conversation as an adult with adults. They're like, whoo, Lord, you got a lot to say, don't you? But all those things just help you move around. It's like, okay, well, that's not my people. And then when you find your topic, your gift, that you are to be the conduit for to speak it out into the world, you don't have to talk as much because you're explaining. I spent a lot of years explaining myself to people because I
Yeah.
thought it was me.
Right.
I thought it was me because it's just one me, and it's 25 of you fools that act like you don't understand what the hell I'm saying. So I'm outnumbered. I must be tripping. And the truth was, at the end of the day, I really was tripping because I was choosing people for my life that was never meant to be for my life. But it gave me a lot of great experience. I'm grateful for it. And I'm glad to now be in this role of priestess, if you will,
Oh, I love
an
it.
elder, an elder who is opening up space, opening up portals, if you will, for you to transition through so that you can come out on the other side as the you that you're yearning to be. And you might not even know it.
Can we please get some hearts and love for Alana Higginbotham flooding the chat? Layla says snaps. We're snapping. We're clapping. Alana can create her own art. You know what else I noticed while you were talking? Sometimes you would do a thumbs up and it would do a thumbs up too.
Oh,
Look at
is that
that.
because
There you go.
maybe that's because of my iPhone?
The hearts are all for you, Alana. So much love and gratitude for your time. If we want to follow you, where do we go? Where do you post the most? What can we look forward to? And where can we go
I,
right now to find you?
I have to come clean. Even though I have the most followers on TikTok, I love me some TikTok now. I just feel like Instagram is the place where I get to communicate better. Um, I don't know. I just recently hit 21,000 subscribers. 21,000 followers on Instagram. I'm working on my YouTube, getting my YouTube numbers up. I'm only at like 400 and something.
Well, we'll have all of the plugs for you. There's a plug at the top from Momboy. If you guys would please, Momboy's spamming it in the chat as well. Click on that Instagram link. If you're on Instagram, follow Alana. We'll link her YouTube in the Discord after the show. And you know that if there's anything you ever are wanting to plug or get across at any time, Cartoon Therapy has an open door for you whenever you want it.
Well, I do have a mini course that I think would be very beneficial for everyone. It's only 25 bucks and it is a course on boundaries. And if you go to, if you click the link in my Instagram or TikTok, if you go to alanahigginbotham.com, you should be able to see a link to my boundaries mini course. And it's only I think it's like 5 videos, but it's so insightful, and it's I break down boundaries and give you an understanding of the perspective. Many people get boundaries confused. They think that boundaries are something that you put on other people, and there's an expectation for the other person's behavior. And I'm able to, in this, to very simply break it down for you so that you can set boundaries that not only last but that actually feed your wholeness, help you become more honest, help you become more whole and undivided. I think you guys are going to love it, and it'll be the best $25 you ever spent.
Incredible. And I think Mom Boy just linked to that as well
Oh
in
my,
that link right
homeboy
there.
is like on it.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Until I see you again, my friend, which I hope is soon. Thank
Yes,
you.
my friend.
So
I
much
am looking forward
gratitude to
to the
you.
time. It is always a pleasure hanging out with you guys.
We love you so much. Thank you for
Thank you
spending the
for
time.
holding space for me to do something that I love with people that I love. You guys are
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll message you after the show. I appreciate you so much. The hearts are
I appreciate
flying.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I just love it. You guys, I can't explain. I can't put to words how meaningful these talks are to me. I mean, hopefully they're as if they're a tenth as meaningful, if they're a tenth as impactful to you as they have been to me, then I know we're doing something truly incredible here on Cartoon Therapy.